All right. Check.
Straight.
Hey, check.
The Stranger Things season 4 teaser is basically 11 in her life, where she is now.
Okay.
Before,
All right. Let me check. I'm still getting that. Game. Okay. And check. Hey, check.
check, 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 check.
Okay. All right. Let me jump onto the YouTubes and see how we're sounding.
Because we're not on Facebook anymore. I don't know why it's. I don't know how to reconnect it on Facebook, but we're doing Twitch and
Yeah.
YouTube. We're on YouTube. I don't know how to reconnect it to Facebook, even though I have reconnect. Okay, I'm reconnecting LinkedIn. I don't know why I'm doing LinkedIn, but it doesn't. Oh, I see a picture of us, so it looks like you already started there.
Okay. Check. That was not what I meant to do. Turn that up. Check. Hey, check. Check. One,
Check, check,
two.
check, check,
Check.
check,
Check. Hey.
check, 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 check,
Hey, hey, hey. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. Sorry, this is like the longest audio check ever for anyone tuning into us.
check. Let me give you some seeds to that check. Maybe they'll eat.
Hey, 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 hey.
Check, check, check. Check, check, check. Hello.
All right. I think we're good. All right. Cool, man. Yeah, I just there's static and I can still hear it. It's a bunch of like someone's gain is turned up too high, but I don't know how to fix that.
I don't know how to fix that either. That's so strange. Cue the Doors music. Strange.
Okay. All right. Well, we can start whenever, man. Whenever you're ready.
All right. Well, let's do 3. On this week's episode, Forza drives home to gamers. Make way for Call of Duty Vanguard. And are we on notice with Red Notice? All this and more as we once again delve into the pop culture cosmos. And we're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. This is Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our shows. And if you can, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Plus, if you can like, share, subscribe, follow, or do anything that you can to support us right here at Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, Lakers Fast Break, Humanican Media, everything that we do as far as Facebook is concerned, including the fact that we're the number one tabletop RPG streamer there, where we have, because we have games all week long on Facebook at Pop Culture Cosmos, or anything else that we do here within the realm of the Pop Culture Cosmos, it is sincerely appreciated. But it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without my good friend. He is our own Stranger Things of Pop Culture Cosmos. You got to check out what he's doing today at popculturecosmos.com. His awesome site, Humanican Media, for all things entertainment, including his great podcasts, Topic Ocalypse and the Super BS Gamescast, plus his amazing book that he has now for sale, which you got to get as a great Christmas present. Who knows? It might be on sale coming up soon for Black Friday, and you can get that at Amazon and Barnes & Noble, entitled Congratulations, You Suck. It is my good friend. It is Josh Peterson.
What
What's up, man?
is up? What's going on, man? It's a Saturday, and I just been playing some games today. Just playing some video games, hanging out, driving some cars through Mexico.
There you go, because we're going to be talking some Forza here in a bit, because Forza Horizon 5 and Call of Duty Vanguard, the major video game releases are being released. They are starting to roll out, so we'll be talking about two of them. Not just one, but two of them that just came out and got released to video game consoles coming up here in a bit. We'll talk about how good Forza is and the future, and is it now considered the best driving series of all time. And with Call of Duty, are we getting diminishing returns even more? So we'll talk about that coming up here in a bit. We'll also talk about something that just dropped before we went on air, the latest teaser for Stranger Things Season 4, and a title list for all the episodes that are coming up in Season 4. And we now know the time frame of when it's coming. So we'll talk about a little Stranger Things Season 4 coming up here on the episode as well. Plus, we've got a whole lot more to talk about, including Red Notice that hit on Netflix. This powerful cast of Ryan Reynolds, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and Gal Gadot all coming together on this sweeping adventure. Is it actually any good? Does it seem like they cashed in a paycheck? We'll talk about the advance word on Red Notice and if it's going to be something that you need to go ahead and check out, or probably will check out because it's on Netflix. That's coming up here in a bit. Plus, also as well on Netflix, something dropped for League of Legends fans, and that is Arcane, an animated movie that just dropped on Netflix this weekend as well. Well, it's a sweeping. Speaking of sweeping adventures, it's a humongous adventure that was designed for the League of Legends fans and out there. And we're going to talk about if this is going to bring in more than just the LOL fans. We're just going to see if we're going to talk about if this is going to bring in a larger audience, and if this is something that, as a beginning, could bring in more fans for more great League of Legends projects down the road. We're going to talk about that on the back end of the show as well. Plus, we have some more retail memories from retail stores in the past, as Josh and I will tell you about some great memories of KB toy stores, and that's coming up on the back end of the show as well. But first, my friend, it is the Eternals. We were all wondering what the advanced word was. I know you were really a lot higher on it than I was. I know that a lot of other people I know were like up and down on it. The advanced word coming into it with Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic had it as the worst and poorest reviewed movie so far for the MCU. So it was very concerning. Several countries around the world, particularly in very socially conservative areas, have decided to ban the movie because of the same-sex relationship, the same-sex kiss, and also the same-sex kiss in the movie is turned off a lot of those countries, and also the fervor back and forth about the first initial MCU love scene, as far as getting down and whatnot. That also set off a little bit of a firestorm. But despite all that, it's looking to come in right around the expectations that Marvel had for the film, around $70 million here domestically and about $150 million worldwide. So that's just under the take that Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings did. So it's gone off to a decent start. We'll see, I think, in the coming weeks, in the second, third, fourth week, exactly how well it will hold, because that may be where the word of mouth comes in. But so far, so good for the Eternals.
So, were you meaning to make a pun when you said word of mouth? Because there's a lot of mouth kissing in this movie. Is that a?
Actually, it's not a lot. Well, yeah, there is a little bit more than the average MCU film. And again, man, the first time that some action, I guess, going on of a different kind, the first time in the MCU, plus the same-sex kiss. I know that's kind of gotten a lot of people like excited for one reason or the other.
Yeah, honestly, man, like I don't. It's not going to stop me from watching the movie. You know, it's really just like a blip in the movie. It's not even. I don't know. I don't understand why people are getting so worked up over it. You know, it's like
Exactly, I
is
agree.
it is it it doesn't change the way that it's the movie is not about the kiss. The kiss just happens in the movie. You know, it doesn't
Yeah.
like take away from anything.
And I appreciate the fact it's the first time that deaf individual and also same sex representation has been in a Marvel movie. I appreciate the fact that audience can now be represented in the movie, because we all know Marvel has made a great effort to go ahead and involve other to be diverse and be more involving.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
to go ahead and cancel the film at whichever country,
Y-
come on,
yeah,
get
and
over it.
that's
It's
that's
2021.
yeah. From what I understand, it's more like the with like the religious places and like the places where
Yeah, the Middle
like
East,
the
but socially conservative countries. I know.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's China too, right? China's not playing it either. Is that
That I haven't heard
okay?
definitively, but
Because
the reason why is that Marvel will not do any cuts. Anytime a country has asked for cuts, for the same-sex kissing scene, and also as well the more intimate scenes, they have declined. So that's why it's getting banned in those countries, because Marvel's not willing to budge. I'm assuming as well that it will not air in China. I haven't heard definitively about that, but I know
yeah,
I've heard about Middle Eastern countries have certain Middle Eastern countries have decided not to play it. But yeah, it's again should be, like you said, a bigger picture about the movie itself. The fact that it's trying to do a lot, and in order to do so, it had to explain a lot, and maybe that didn't connect with the critics as much. But you're not a
yeah,
big fan of the critics, anyways.
right,
But it looks to be doing okay despite that.
yeah, and I didn't expect it to be something like Guardians of the Galaxy. Everyone's like, oh, maybe it'll be like that. You know, we'll laugh. There's a new team we'll laugh about. This is actually a very serious movie, and I think that this was meant to be like the I guess the trampoline that launches all the other the next all the things coming up in the MCU. From what I
Yeah.
understand, and there's two end credit scene. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I didn't hearing that they don't have any sequels planned, and hearing that this is supposed to have big repercussions across the MCU. I wasn't really expecting it to be the fanfare of like Iron Man or Captain America or Thor or anything. I was looking at this as like a side story that has a ripple effect.
Absolutely. And looking to see how they'll integrate those Eternal characters, and also Kit Harrington's
His Black Knight
Black
character,
Knight.
yeah,
Yeah, that's the one I think that people are going to be looking towards him integrated into the MCU in other films. You're right. The Eternals does not have a set for sure sequel or trilogy in mind. If it does well enough, Marvel is going to leave the door open for that. But
yeah.
right now, like we said, it's kind of iffy and up in the air for the future of the Eternals. But I think that the movie is going to do well enough to keep the Eternals around in some form or fashion. Maybe you'll see one here, a couple there, things like that. And then of course, Kit Harrington, I think, was going to have a bigger place in the MCU as a whole. I think it's not going to be like the Inhumans. I know that was the worry, that it would be like the Inhumans, where it went up and appeared on ABC television, was so bad that they just swept it under the rug, like I mentioned on a previous episode. That I think that now that this is going to be something that Marvel's kind of cool with this movie, and Marvel's going to Marvel's going to keep this around and not forget that this movie ever existed.
Yeah, no, and I obviously there's a plan, like they screen their stuff very well before they put it out. So there's obviously there's a purpose for this film being where it was. So they didn't necessarily have to give you the Eternals to like launch whatever's coming next, but there's a plan in place. And whether this movie is good or bad, we all trust in Feige, right? Like it's
Hmm.
we put our faith in Feige. Faith in Feige bumper sticker. There you go. Queued
There
up.
you go.
But yeah, I'm not expecting big things from it. I think that Marvel's kind of shot itself in the foot in the fact that every superhero movie has become, they've built these expectations, with the audiences. Like there's going to be cool. There's gonna be funny quips, and there's gonna be like lots of explosions, and there's gonna be jokes about Loki. And it's like, heaven forbid that we put out a movie that actually has a serious story to tell. Like they created the expectations, much like Michael Bay created the expectations, and like Transformers will never be a movie that has depth because everyone's like, all I want from this is robots and explosions. And I think that that's where people are having a hard time with this movie, is because it's telling a rather serious story as opposed to the one that's like full of jokes and fighting.
Should it come sooner in the MCU movie timeline? Should it have been an explainer maybe towards the beginning of this whole MCU?
No, yes and no. I feel like a movie like this would have served well to come out right after Endgame, to kind of like lay the groundwork, have these characters, because in the trailer they obviously address like what happened with Thanos and all that.
Yeah.
So it would be nice. It would have been nice to have this there, because instead of like Black Widow or Spider-Man or whatever, that way you could have really like laid the groundwork for what's coming next, but also address what has already happened. So it kind of takes what just happened and put it into like a bigger picture, as opposed to having all these other things come out. So you're already building the expectation, like, oh, we got Spider-Man, and oh, we got Black Widow or whatever. So it's, I don't know. I feel like it would have served a better place, better placeholder at the beginning of this phase, instead of like what we're in the middle or close to the middle.
Yeah, something like that. And I mean, what you've got Hawkeye coming up here in a couple weeks that I'm very excited for, and you've got after that Spider-Man No Way Home, and then you have Morbius, which kind of ties into the MCU.
Yeah, that's an
But
interesting one. All that debate online about where that stands.
exactly, so we might not have anything after Morbius in the MCU unless they announce some Marvel shows coming sooner rather than later after the Book of Boba Fett. I'm not hearing anything as far as a set date for any of their shows, so I'm certain we're going to be getting more word on the Marvel shows on when they might debut coming up here on Disney Plus Day. But after that, after Morbius, right now on the docket, we will not see anything until May, because they bumped back Doctor Strange 2 and the Multiverse of Madness
Yeah.
back to May from, I think it's March date. So there'll be a little bit of point in time where the MCU might be might be inactive. So
Yeah.
we'll see how what happens, man. But
Do you
it's going to be very interesting.
do you know what I hope for, that this, like with the Eternals and Guardians of the Galaxy and all this, you know what I hope that these will yield?
What's that?
The Silver Surfer, because all
Oh,
of
I'm sure
us
it will.
just want to see the Silver Surfer in the MCU. Like, it was such a shame. He was cool in that Fantastic Four Fox movie, but he didn't really like, what could he be like in the MCU? That is something that I would love to see. Not just like, don't just reflect on his tale. Give us the full Silver Surfer movie, like
Well,
the
the obvious thing is going to be him debuting in a Fantastic Four movie or in the Fantastic Four movie when it comes out. But maybe he'll be introduced beforehand. He'll be in a, it may be one of the cut scenes coming up
yeah.
in the not too distant future. But I think he's a given. I think his character is a given, and will also provide a context for those longtime fans to go ahead and better appreciate the MCU. But it
Mhm.
will have to be something that has to be explained to a general audience who has really not had any recollections of the Silver Surfer at all.
Yeah, and I mean they're already opening up that like cosmic side of the MCU, so it'd be nice
Yes.
to like, and that's why I say like maybe don't put him in the Fantastic Four right away, but give him his own film, like showing his origins and how like, and you can also touch on like Galactus, like where did Galactus come from and all that. Like and you can also maybe put like Nova in there. There's a lot that they can do that would really like familiarize people with the characters, and then throw him into the mix with Fantastic Four. Like that could be cool.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, the Eternals, like I said, it's meeting right. It's right around the expectations of what Marvel is expecting for, right around $70 million domestically. So, considering the circumstances here in the pandemic, I think that's to be appreciated, and the fact that it will most likely earn right around $150 million worldwide, even if the fact that it's been banned in several countries should be, I think, commended for the movie. I think it should be the fact that despite all the controversies, despite all the bad reviews, despite all the things that have been pushed against it, the Eternals is still going to be something that the MCU will still be a great part of.
Yeah, and I'm curious, like with the countries that aren't going to be playing this movie, like how they're going to are they going to make a new when they make whatever movie comes out next that needs to reference the Eternals. I wonder if they'll be making like special cuts of like maybe some what happened in the movie.
Who knows? Who knows indeed? But it is the Eternals. It's now out in theaters. The reactions are all over the place, and it's actually more popular with the general audience, and the fans out there seem to be appreciating it a lot more than the critics, which is a good thing. And that's always the best thing if the general audience is liking it a lot more than what we're seeing from the critics. The only thing is, what's going to be the returns are like with the second, third, fourth weeks moving forward. The second week is always a big drop for superhero movies. So if somebody sees a 60 or 70% drop, don't be surprised, because that happens with all these superhero movies. Depends how far down it goes. Now, if it goes down like what we saw from Black Widow, that was extremely unfortunate to see. That I think set the bad tone, was that second week for that film as far as the advance word, because we were expecting a lot more, I think, from a box office standpoint. But we'll see what happens with the Eternals. But any last thoughts on the Eternals? I know I'm going to go ahead and check it out by the time this airs, but what are your thoughts on the Eternals before we head on out?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something I want to watch. My girls have not yet seen Endgame. We're almost there. We're like 2 movies away. So once we watch that, then we'll get out of the house, go check out Eternals, and then I'll have some more definitive thoughts there. But just seeing the trailers, like and seeing the cinematography and just the tone of the film, I'm still pretty excited to watch it at some point.
I've got one last thing, my friend, that you touched on that just hit me. And the fact is that Chloe Zhao directed this film, who is the Academy Award winning director of Nomadland.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just my personal opinion that I hope whatever the results of this film are, is that Marvel will still continue to have some association with her and her work, because
Yeah.
I would, whatever the results are from this film, I think that Marvel should be very just very accepting of trying to go ahead and keep her within the MCU as far as for some work later on. I'm hoping that you won't hear stories of how Chloe does not ever want to work with Marvel again, and vice versa. I'm hoping they'll get a chance to collaborate once again down the road.
Yeah, and here's that's a good point too, because like Marvel has notoriously not wanted to work with artsy film directors. Like Edgar Wright was risky for Ant-Man, and then we saw what happened to that, right? And then Scott Derrickson, like he wanted to do something different with Doctor Strange, and they got rid of him too. And yeah, I mean, they say it was amicable, but it probably wasn't. But this is the first time they've like brought in a truly like artsy like a truly
and she
artsy.
wanted to. She approached them on this.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I would hope so, because here's the thing, like you can keep making movies for the general audience, but there's a group of people who want substance in their films. And not that the MCU doesn't have substance, but it's not geared towards people who like artistic films. And it feels like this.
That's why it gets all the criticism from some notable directors out there.
Yeah, and this feels like it's a true like turn in the direction of like bringing people in that want to not just make artistic films, but like see them, in a superhero context, showing that superhero movies can be more than just jokes and people punching each other.
There you go. But it is the Eternals. It has come out. We want to hear your thoughts on if you enjoyed the Eternals and are looking forward to seeing more appearances from the Eternals down the road in the MCU. Please share us your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, there's so much more to talk about on today's program. Just before we went on the air, I can't do that Stranger Things music, but Stranger Things dropped a season 4 teaser, an episode title list, and also a general, not specific, but general release date on when these episodes will drop. So, my friend, I got a chance to see it. They're heading into 1986. And boy, do I remember that period of time. I was in high school at that time, which we're seeing now from the cast of Stranger Things, ironically, of all right, ironically, ironically of all ironicallys, it's they're in high school, and I guess the whole teaser is about 11, Millie Bobby Brown's character, writing a letter to her boyfriend and talking about how she's having a wonderful time, when we're seeing that it's quite the reverse, and how she's not popular and how she's being bullied in school and things of that nature. But it's giving a even little bit darker sign of things to come, with some highlights of things that are going to happen along the way, because she's looking forward to this spring break of 1986. So I want to hear your thoughts on this. Again, for me, it brings back a lot of memories of my time around that time, because I was a junior, I think, at that point in time. So I want to hear your thoughts on what you're looking forward to with Stranger Things.
I'm really just looking forward to seeing like where the story goes, because I know they're wanting to end the series with season 5, but every season up until now has had a clear end. The bad
Yeah,
guys been defeated, the Russians have been defeated. We saw the Russians are still up to something, and Hopper's there and all that good stuff. But
yeah.
like
He
where
got transported to there.
yeah, but where's like the big thing? Like where's the Thanos at? What is going to be a satisfying ending to a series that like this, that people like have truly come to like know and love over the years.
You're expecting some type of, like you said, Thanos type
It
or Thanos level entity to be pulling the strings all along, and to be the ultimate boss battle against the kids, per se, correct?
Right, right, and maybe not like it doesn't have to have a big antagonist, because perhaps like the upside down itself could be the big antagonist, but like what is it that's going to bring about a clear cut, satisfying, like, oh, this tied the whole show together and it brought everything to a nice end? Like, where is that going to come from? That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
And as for the show itself, like, I love the show, like I was born in 88, so I don't really have any recollection of the 80s, but for me, like it makes me feel nostalgic for a time that I wasn't alive for, and like I think a lot of people feel that too. Like that you see these like 80s and 90s styles popping back up, and I think Stranger Things does a good job of showing the world for what it was in comparison to like what it is today. And that's one thing I really loved about the last season, was like the shopping mall. Not a It's unfortunate now that a lot of people won't know the joy of a shopping mall in its heyday.
Yeah, I agree. I have to almost remember myself at times exactly how awesome it was, and how much I took it for granted, because you had it was your life at that time. So
Yeah.
people have a tendency to take things for granted, and how wonderful it was to go ahead and experience that
Like,
at the level I did, because the
yeah.
1980s and 1990s, that's what it was all about.
Yeah, even if you didn't have any money to spend, it was still nice just to go. Like
Yeah.
there's something calming about the atmosphere of a shopping mall. You had people shopping, you had music playing at like the Orange Julius and all that. Like there was definitely something about that era. And I think Stranger Things not only captures that well, not just a shopping mall culture, but like everything about what life was like back then, from the styles to the pop culture to really just they even like in the the upside down and the monsters and all that, they really capture that era in film too, like what was cool back then, with the monster movies, the alien movies, like even in the last season when they sat down there, what horror movie were they watching? It was like Halloween or something in the beginning of the last season. Like they do a good job of recreating what made that era so great to so many people, and
Exactly.
I think it makes modern audiences like wish that they could experience what that time was like.
I agree with you on that. They did an excellent representation of that. It did make me nostalgic. And for a second, Wonder Woman 1984 did that too, but they didn't really go ahead and showcase too much of that. You were actually experiencing it in Stranger Things
Yeah.
much more so than then. It just gave the aesthetic look for a second in Wonder Woman 84. It said, yeah, I remember being a part of that. It was kind of cool. But then Stranger Things, actually, you delved into it.
You live
You
in it.
got to, yeah, the kids working in some of the stores and the kids going and hanging out at the mall. Those are times that I do remember and can associate with. So yeah, it's going. We're gonna have to wait and see what the summer of excuse me. We're gonna have to wait and see what Spring Break 1986 looks like to Stranger Things when it debuts in the summer of 2022. So that's how cool and how much of a time span we're talking about from then to now in regards to what they're going to go ahead and present to everyone out there for Stranger Things season 4. So it'll be very interesting to see. I want to give you the title list for the episodes, and it's very intriguing that they already released the titles of the episodes. So here we go, my friend. The Hellfire Club, Vestna's Curse, The Monster and the Superhero, Dear Billy, The Nina Project, The Dive, The Massacre at Hawkins Lab, Papa, and the last that's listed is The Piggyback. So very interesting that they go ahead and
Is
release the titles of these episodes. Of course, there's meaning behind them, but
yeah. Let the
makes you think.
speculation begin. Do you think
Yeah.
that season 5 should start off with them being adults and like wrap it up the way that like it did?
I don't know. That would be just that's too easy, though, don't you think? That's
It
kind of a that
yeah.
would kind of be copying it.
It would be too easy, but it'd also be cool to see like how the 90s is explored, you know?
Well, maybe you can do like a halfway season transition between then and now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean I don't think that that would best serve the series, but it's an interesting idea, you know?
I have a feeling they won't, or maybe like as a final scene, they'll cut to the after everything's all done and they've killed whatever entity that they faced off against. The survivors would probably be you do a flash forward to what's happening in present day and or maybe like even early 2000s or something like that. That when they're
Yeah.
adults, like you were saying.
Yes, absolutely. That could be cool.
There you go. But it is Stranger Things season 4 that's on the docket. I'm very intrigued, and I know Josh is as well. Are you excited for Stranger Things? And the last thing I want to ask you this when it comes to Stranger Things, because Stranger Things at the time of last season it came out was the preeminent show on Netflix. But Netflix has evolved, has gained new series, has popularized itself with dozens and dozens of series and movies and a whole ton of content since then, and it's now grown to well over 210 million subscribers. So I ask you this: will Stranger Things resonate with an audience the same way it did before? I mean, the Squid Game, will it reach even close to what the Squid Game numbers are at? Because that's been viewed by over 150 million of this 210 million subscriber base. So the question is now, Stranger Things was one of the key components to why Netflix is where it's at now. The thing I want to ask you is, will it continue that upper tier success? Because you have The Witcher, you have so many other things that they have now, and we're going to be talking about a couple of them here in a bit. But will they have when it comes out in the summer of 2022? Will we be viewing Stranger Things as a preeminent show for Netflix?
Yeah, I think so. You know, last time, okay, when the last season of Stranger Things came out, I knew a lot of people that hadn't watched the show, but then heard everyone talking about the show, so went back and binged all the seasons. So I think that we are yes, it will grow. The numbers that Squid Game has done, I don't know because Stranger Things isn't a show that appeals to people across the globe. Whereas Squid Games was something that did appeal to people across the globe, right? Mostly because it came out of the South Korea, the market in the South Korea film market. That being said, Stranger Things, will it do as well as Squid Game? It's hard. It's hard to tell. It's hard. I don't know like what people in other countries are watching. I don't know what kind of media they're into. But as for a domestic viewership, I definitely think that it still holds a very special place in people's hearts. You look at Target. Like Target just got a whole new line of Stranger Things merch, action figures, T-shirts. So I think that there is. There's a definite desire for the Stranger Things brand, and I think that people are still into it. And right now, we're at season 4, so we're already 3 seasons committed to this show. So yes, I do think that it will do well with people here. Will it be looked at in the way of Squid Game or The Witcher? It's really hard to tell because, like you said, the landscape has changed so much. I think one of the big issues here is that Stranger Things between season 1 and season 2 is about a year. Season 2, season 3, it was a year and a half, 2 years maybe. Like there's been such, and I don't think the Duffer Brothers really expected this show to get as big as it did. But I think that making the production a lot bigger has been costly, in terms of like keeping their audience around too.
Well, it'll be interesting to see where Stranger Things realigns itself amongst the very top of the successful shows that they have. I mean, you've got so many that they produced since then. You've got so many you got so many shows that have resonated
Yeah.
with audiences since the last season aired of Stranger Things. So it'll be interesting to see where along the lines of The Crown, of Narcos, of so many of these other amazing shows that they've had over the years, with The Witcher since Stranger Things season 3. Where season 4 will take us. Not only where it will take us, but how it will be perceived, how it will be watched. I mean, will Stranger Things still be the top show and series for Netflix when it comes out in season 4? So that'll be something very interesting to see when it comes out in the summer of 2022. But if you have any thoughts on Stranger Things and what you're looking forward to in season 4, please let us know. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, coming up after the break, we're going to be talking about more great things because it is a jam-packed November to remember here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. We're going to be talking some video games because Call of Duty Vanguard, Forza Horizon 5, 2 of the heavy hitters in the video game scene, just got released. We'll give you our initial thoughts on them and the initial thoughts from everyone out there as well. So we'll be talking about that here in a sec. Plus, also, speaking of Netflix, there's got more stuff on the way. As if we didn't say enough about what's coming up on Netflix, which we'll be talking about even more throughout the month. They've got Red Notice and Arcane that have dropped in recent days. So we'll be talking about Red Notice and Arcane also as well coming up on the back end of the show. Then Josh has some memories of KB Toys, about this once proud and pretty strong out there retail outlet. What's the status, what the memories he has, and what its possible future could even be if it has one. That we'll talk about here at the back end of the show. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back with the show. It's Gerald Glassford along with my good friend, Mr. Josh Peterson, right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. Want to thank you so much for watching and listening everywhere around the world on Radio Worldwide, plus also wherever you get your podcasts. We're on many charts around the world in the entertainment news section, and we cannot thank you enough for supporting us. And don't forget, we are the #1 tabletop RPG streamer on Facebook. We've got so many great games happening all throughout the week. And if you ever want to check us out, as far as our amazing adventures that are scattered throughout several different games, not just necessarily Dungeons and Dragons, Vampire the Masquerade, there's also Mass Effect. There's so many different tabletop RPG games that we have available, and it's all in our video section that's waiting for you now at the Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook. But my friend, there's still much more to talk about on today's program. Before we hit up a game that I know you're familiar with, vroom, 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 We're going to be talking first about the standard bearer for video game sales and success. Call of Duty just released Vanguard to consoles and PCs everywhere, and it's getting an okay reception. It's getting about the reception that we saw from last year with Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, which I was hoping so much more for a much stronger, I guess, response, because of the fact I thought that it had such a good concept about the timeline, what it was in, and I was so excited for it. But then the reviews came out, and they're kind of, oh, that's okay. So I just really didn't put much thought into it after that. And the sales, of course, the sales are always strong for Call of Duty, but I don't know. With Call of Duty Warzone, that's already out in a new season and everything that goes on there, and it's free to play, and a lot of people are into it. Plus everything that's out there. Call of Duty, we keep on talking about this, my friend, each and every year. A Call of Duty drops, and we always talk about could there be any declining returns. The reviews have come out, and they're okay. They're not super. They're not great for Call of Duty Vanguard. I want to ask you this. I mean, we always talk about, again, like I said, the declining returns supposedly of the Call of Duty franchise, but they still appear at number one each and every year, or at least at near the top of the list, next to Grand Theft Auto, which seems to go ahead and command anytime it's a new one is released. But Call of Duty, usually, if it's not a GTA, is ruling the roost in the video game world. Your thoughts on Call of Duty Vanguard? I mean, it's something that I guess people are still going to continue to play regardless, because it is Call of Duty, and it's now like a creature habit thing where you have to go ahead and get it because you got to get the new maps, got to play the campaign, going to obviously check out the zombies part of it. But your thoughts on Call of Duty Vanguard?
It's weird that when you talk about Call of Duty, like and I know that it still has its audience and it's still popular, but like I stopped caring about Call of Duty a long time ago. Like I don't know, like I feel like I grew out of it, but there are people who, much like Madden and FIFA, like this is the one game that they play every year. So here's, and I'm predicting at this point that there's going to be much like, following Modern Warfare, like there was a lot of the Call of Duties that followed that were not very popular because people were still playing Modern Warfare. So I think that we're going to reach a point, much like Halo 3 multiplayer was like, it wasn't Halo 2, but it was still probably some of the most fun. So the following Halos that came out, I don't think people spent a lot of time playing Halo 4 or Halo 5 multiplayer. So I think that Call of Duty's running the risk of getting to a point where they make this one game with multiplayer so great, nobody wants to play any of the Call of Duties that are going to follow that game.
Well, you've also got the Call of Duty Warzone splintering the Call of Duty audience
Oh,
too.
yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I just like I feel like you can really have much like, the audience spoke with Assassin's Creed, right? Like too much Assassin's Creed. There is such thing as too much Assassin's Creed. And you get to that point where like, is there such thing as too much Call of Duty? Absolutely. I think, especially if they're going to continue to support Call of Duty Warzone, I don't know how smart it is to keep releasing these new Call of Duties annually. Maybe switch to a system where, like, take a year off, show people that it's more than just a Star Wars machine, right? You're not just pumping things out. Like, show people you care about the content and you're trying to make something that's never been done before. Like, show people you're putting development time into these games. Like, I feel like these Call of Duties are just reskins of what has happened before. And I think if they were to take a year off, that they could come back strong, like crazy strong. But, at the same time, again, you have people who only play, this game and maybe two others per year. So it's hard to say like where their minds are at. But as for me, who I don't hate Call of Duty, but I just feel like there's so much of it that I can't keep up with it. That's the gamers like me are the ones that are going to not come back to that franchise.
But we keep saying this every year, my friend, and it still sells like hotcakes. Now, it may comparatively not sell as well as the previous years, or like you said, a
Yeah.
cornerstone or landmark in the series game, like Modern Warfare or whatever has sold. But still, they reach the top of the charts seemingly every year.
Right, but for how long, and like that's the big thing too is like all the big games, Forza, which we'll talk about in a second, has scored tens all across the board. But do you know what the difference is with people playing Forza is that they can play it with their Games Pass, subscription. So, you look at a game like Call of Duty, and yeah, you have to pay to buy this game, but it's hard to tell like if you had to pay to buy these games that you're being able to play through subscription services, would the call for Call of Duty be lessened?
It's very interesting because, like we talked about, Call of Duty Vanguard, its current Metacritic rating is middle of the road, 76. I mean, that's okay.
It's not
But then again,
great. Yeah.
last year's was kind of okay, and the previous years was kind of okay. So the reviews for Call of Duty seemingly are the same. It's there. It just seems like they're everybody in Call of Duty, whichever studio's doing it, because they have three studios that actually do the yearly iterations for Call of Duty. Just seems like it's a machine.
Yeah.
Just seems like it's a factory, and they're just producing out.
Just pumping them out.
Okay, yeah, they're pumping them out, just pumping out just okay game after okay game after okay game, and like you said, it seems like a creature of habit thing where people are just their one purchase of the year each year is Call of Duty.
Yeah, and it's a shame too because there's so many better games out there. Maybe there's not as many first-person shooter games out there. Like, do you remember it was like the early 2000s? Like, there was a ton of first-person shooters coming out, like just weekly. They were dropping these first-person shooters. Nowadays, you don't really get as many of those. You get a lot of indies. You get a lot of not actually. You don't really get many racing games, but you get a lot of like action adventure games. But you don't get a lot of first-person shooters. So maybe that's playing the Call of Duty's advantage, but looking at like Battlefield and the I guess the space is ripe for a new like first person shooter franchise to come out here. But I think that people don't make these army games anymore for the same reason people don't make football games anymore, because how do you compete with the Titans?
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, during the mid 2000s, we saw an influx of a huge amount of World War II games.
Yeah.
And it pretty much came to the point where we got so burnt out as a gaming society from these World War II games that there was a backlash. So Call of Duty and Battlefield went to they went modern, then they went future, and then they went back to the past. They back to World War One, and then now they went back to World War II. And they're just they're trying to go back and forth across the timelines to different wars and different eras to try and still make things fresh. But
yeah,
now they're back to World War II again, and it's okay. We get it. That's fine, but it seemingly is just going to be a harder sell for audiences out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in this space where games are constantly evolving. You're putting out a game that you're not going to support in 12 months anymore. And I think that that's the thing that is ultimately going to be the nail in the coffin of Call of Duty. If they were to take a year, because, with a yearly development cycle, like, what are they really developing for this game?
You got to remember they got three different development studios working on these games, so they just rotate.
Yeah, they're rotating, but I mean, if you look at these games, there's not really, and after watching Call of Duty Vanguard footage, like there's not really anything that's being improved upon from entries past. It seems like they're really just reskinning assets and then putting them in a new environment. And I think that whereas like you look at something like Assassin's Creed, right? We talked about this where they had the yearly development cycle. They took the year off, but when they came back and they had this like Assassin's Creed Origins, like it truly looked like they put time, and this game looked beautiful. And I think that Call of Duty could really use that, because I'd be curious to see what the ratings and what the numbers were like if they did that, because you can keep getting sevens, sixes and sevens, and say like, oh, okay, I made an okay game, but how long are you going to be able to get sixes and sevens before those sixes and sevens start to become fives and fours, and those that return becomes less and less?
Absolutely. I mean, they went ahead after Call of Duty Ghosts and did kind of a shift because that was so poorly received.
I actually kind of like that one. That was weird.
Yeah, I know. You might have liked it, but I guess the reviewers really don't like, because that's one of the poorest reviewed games in the Call of Duty series, and they did a monumental shift at that. I know that Activision was kind of up in arms about that. But it is Call of Duty Vanguard. It is now out and available. But before we go ahead and hit the break, my friend, there is another game that of a major industry type format that you just hinted at, and that is Forza Horizon 5, which, speaking of reviews, is currently has a 91, a sparkling 91 on Metacritic. So it is a much beloved game, and like you said, very well reviewed. So this is a game that you've already sunk your teeth a little bit into. What are your thoughts on Forza Horizon 5?
This game is absolutely breathtaking. Like, they talked about how they would set up cameras, film the landscape, like as the sun went up and the sun went down. Like they really went through their paces to make this game, and it shows. The environment is beautiful. The way I'm so sorry. The way that the environment breaks apart as you run, you run over things, and the way that the sun comes down, and the weather. You have the sandstorms. Like it all. There's a lot of like work went into this game. I love Forza so much. Like I will play every inch of these Forza Horizon games. So I went ahead and I bought the premium DLC add-on. So if you buy the premium DLC or you buy the premium pack for the game, you can get early access to the game because it doesn't technically come out till November 9th, which I think is on a Tuesday. But so I've been sinking my teeth into this game. This is the first like Microsoft game to receive a 10 from IGN, and like I think that it is well deserving of it. I'm about 3 hours in right now, and my only complaint is much like every other Forza game. Like there's just so much content on the map that it's hard to keep up with it all. And before you know it, like because as you go, you're like unlocking different parts of the festival and all that, but before you know it, you have so many icons on your map that it can be a little bit overwhelming. And you know me, like I got OCD when it comes to games, so I have to like make sure I hit all the points and X everything off. But it's a truly spectacular game. And some people might like this, some people might not like it, but like the customization in the game has been is a big you can tell there's a big change, a lot of things, a lot of effort put into it. Like you can choose what body type you have, what skin color you have, what what your pronouns are going to be, what your voice looks like. There's like everything in this game is customizable because they're truly like trying to reach out to anybody and everybody who might be interested in playing this game. Not to mention, they have their story modes and all that, but there's a whole lot of new different Horizon stories you can play through. So you're not just limited to like races and drifting and things like that. There's a lot of new content packed into this game, and I don't know. I really like. I'm just sitting here thinking about how much I want to play more of it. And this is the first game that I've played that was truly developed and designed and developed for the Xbox Series X, and it really like puts the Xbox through its paces. It is a truly, it's fantastic. It is well deserving of the ratings that it's gotten so far. Do you plan to try the waters with this one at all?
When I get an Xbox Series X, most definitely. It's something I want to get my teeth into. I'm ready to get one. I'm just waiting for time. I'm not going to pay extra, but I am going to get an Xbox Series X. So when I do, that'll be one of the first games I try because I'm excited.
Just a heads up, Walmart.com is going to drop some at noon your time. So,
well, it's already past noon.
Too late then.
Too late. But I get the next one. But I want to hear, I'm going to say this. We'll finish off our conversation with this. We talked about Call of Duty and where it stands as far as the best-selling game each and every year, and obviously one of the greatest video game series of all time. That's notwithstanding. I mean, you cannot sell as many games as the Call of Duty series has and not be considered one of the greatest of all time. For so many years, Forza has been chasing the ghost of what was once Gran Turismo, and the fact that Gran Turismo was considered by everyone the greatest driving video game series of all time. That was years ago, and now all these years later, even with another Gran Turismo on the way, I think that the view has totally done a reverse 180 on this. And for years now, I think in recent years now, we have to consider Forza Horizon as now the preeminent driving video game series in the world.
Yeah, I agree. Like there's somewhere where Gran Turismo like had the formulas down, and like granted like the having to take license tests like really angered a lot of people because they're hard. But Forza continued to go at it, whereas like Gran Turismo kept on taking so many years off, and then they would try new things that never really clicked with audiences. And I will forever complain about things like Gran Turismo 4 or 5, and I don't remember which one, where you had to like they had such little content where you actually could drive the car, and then like half the game was coaching drivers. Like that was
Yeah.
something that really irritated me. And then they had Gran Turismo Sport, which came out 2 years ago, and that was one that required you to always be online. See, the great thing about these Forza games, like the online content is there if you want it, but this is what I tell people. Like, I love Forza and the fact that I can come home from work, sit down, and unwind while playing this game. I don't have to talk to people. I don't have to jump in any multiplayer servers. I can just sit there and play it. It's not complicated at all. And I think that's something that really plays in its favor, and why it is, at least to me, I regard it as a better game than Gran Turismo. Gran Turismo 7 could come out and I could I could eat my shoe, but right now, like I think this is the go-to racing series for a lot of people.
Well, it is. Forza Horizon 5 is now available on Xbox Games Pass and wherever you get your video games, and also Call of Duty Vanguard, which is not available on Games Pass, but it is available on every major gaming platform. So these are two of the heavyweights that were expected to come out in November. So we want to hear your thoughts on Call of Duty Vanguard and Forza Horizon 5. Is it everything that you wanted it to be as far as a video game for this holiday season? Please share us your thoughts. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Well, my friend, we're going to be ending the show. Excuse me. Well, my friend, it's almost time to end the show. But before we head on out, we've got just a couple things to go and some memories from you. So before we head on out, we talked earlier about Netflix and Stranger Things and how wonderful it is, and we're so looking forward to it. But there are a couple of things to look forward to right now from the world of Netflix. And in fact, one may not be so great and one may be very good. First off, we'll do with the good, and that is Arcane from the world and universe of League of Legends. This animated series is coming in 3 parts. I don't know if you call it a series or if you call it an extended movie, but it's like an Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3 that's coming out each and every successive Saturday, the 6th, the 13th, and the 20th. So the part Act 1 has already come out by the time you hear this, but there's an Act 2 and an Act 3. This is a very interesting concept. I've seen the design and I like the animation style, but I'm not really a huge League of Legends fan. So I'm wondering if I need to understand the League of Legends series as far as the game is concerned. Do I need to be involved in that very much, or can I just enjoy it for what it's worth?
That's a cool thing about League of Legends. It's very accessible to all players, all people who are interested. The characters have their own backstories, but there's not a lot of like deep lore to this game. Like it has, you get to pick your characters, tells like what class they are, where they came from. Like they all have backstories, but there's not a bunch of like, oh, in this battle of man versus orc or whatever like Warcraft has. Like it's literally, I think that the creation of this show is them trying to introduce lore into the franchise. And it could only help. Much like when Halo 1 came out, they had the books that kind of expanded the world a little bit. I think that that's what they're trying to do with this one, so that eventually, one day, League of Legends can be a big franchise. Like it can be something that people will go to of all game types. You could play whether or not you want to play the multiplayer mode, or if there's like a single player version that they're going to come out with eventually. Like I think they're just trying to build the universe a little bit.
Well, actually, what they're doing is, I shouldn't say it's a 3-episode arc. It's actually a 9-episode arc. But what they're doing is releasing it kind of differently for folks at Netflix. I'm not sure if Netflix individuals can handle out there because they love having everything dropped at once. But they're going to be doing it in 3-episode arcs. So I guess until it gets to a total of 9. So they're going to be releasing 1, 2, and 3 in successive weekends. Then they're going to be introducing another 3, and then introducing another 3. So it's kind of interesting the way that they're releasing this. So I'm curious. I'm curious to see how people will relate to this. If people that are not fans of the game or are not familiar with the game, if they'll connect with this series. So I'm curious because again, I like the look, I like the feel, like the style of it, what's being presented. So I'm very much looking forward to Arcane.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, and I also, in the wake of this, like they talked about the Devil May Cry series for Netflix is still planning on coming out. So I think Netflix is a good place for this gaming content to find a home because, if you want to expand your lore and you don't want to go through the hassle of like printing DVDs or really, doing the whole anime thing, like Netflix seems like a good way to get people interested, especially with their like gaming service coming out. So I don't know. I'm seeing big things happening with the gaming scene and Netflix working together.
Before we head on out, my friend, we want to talk about one major thing on Netflix, which should have been, and I'm going to be honest with you, my friend, should have been at the front of our episode where we talk about the huge main topic that hit, and that is Red Notice with The Rock, Ryan Reynolds, and Gal Gadot. But the reason why it's here on the section where we talk about the other interesting news of the week is that it's gotten roasted over the coals by the critics. And I think right now, according to Metacritic, it has a 39, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, a 39, which is really bad. And we talked about this before leading up to this show in the past in regards to Red Notice, that we were worried that it just might be all 3 individuals cashing in a paycheck, and this might be a paycheck movie because seemingly some of these big name actors that are doing these action side story movies that premiere on Netflix seem to be going through the motions, and okay, we'll just take our money and there you go. I mean, Ryan Reynolds has already done one already that came out last year to Netflix that it just seemingly was going through the motions and just cashing in a paycheck. And to me, this is kind of disappointing because instead of using this as a platform to really boost it, and let's just put this out there, because the big names, it's this movie's going to be popular. This movie's going to be viewed by tens of millions of viewers. I'm not going to even tell anybody differently on that. It's going to be popular in its own right and may just most likely justify its existence on Netflix. But to me, it's kind of disappointing that they went through the motions on this movie because it could have been so much more.
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at the names in it: The Rock, Ryan Reynolds, Gal Gadot, and you look at Netflix, and like, I honestly don't have any expectations for this movie to be good. I feel like it's going to be a popcorn flick, and that's the reason I'm going to watch it. I'm not looking for depth. I'm not looking for good acting. I'm just looking for something that I can sit back on the couch, get a bowl of popcorn, sit down, relax, and enjoy it. I'm not expecting like an Oscar-worthy film, and I think that if anyone was, then this was not the right movie for them to watch. I could be mistaken. I could watch it and be like, "Oh man, this really is like flaming hot garbage." But you're looking at the talent in it, and you're looking at where the movie is housed, and it's not something that anybody should really be expecting to be fantastic by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, and it also has Ryan Reynolds' PG-13 style, which I've already said on the show is not as funny and entertaining.
Right. Yeah, and
Uh,
he's
I mean, I
taking.
just watched Free Guy. I just watched Free Guy and caught Free Guy,
Oh
which we were
yeah.
so excited for. And I'm going to be honest with you, my friend. I fell asleep 3 times. I
Yeah,
tried to, yeah, I fell asleep. I rewound to where it was I left off, and I fell asleep again, and then I had to rewind again, and I fell asleep again.
yeah. I saw that came out. I've been meaning to check it out. But
I was
Ryan,
so excited for that movie too.
yeah, it looked really fun. I mean, it didn't look cool. It looked funny, or fun, I guess would be more the word. Ryan Reynolds, though, like if you look at all these smaller budget films that he's doing, like it's no wonder the guy's been busy, and like it's no wonder he recently stated he's going to be taking like a
Time
year
off.
off from acting because I think his next gig is supposed to be the next Deadpool movie, so I think he's kind of just taking some time off till that happens.
Yeah, definitely needs a break, especially after this one. Again, a lot of people are going to see it. It is Red Notice, which is right now on Netflix. It is getting raked over the coals review wise, but we want to hear your thoughts. Is Red Notice, as you know, should we be put on notice with Red Notice? Is it as bad as the critics saying it is? Is it even better as a popcorn flick, like Josh is saying? But we're going to be checking it out in the not too distant future, regardless. Plus, also Arcane, the new series from the folks at League of Legends, this new animated series that's coming out. We want to hear your thoughts on both, if they are must watches or must not watches on Netflix. Share us your thoughts. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Well, my friend, before we head on out, you have some memories, more retail memories that we wanted to bring everyone. So please, before we head on out, you have some memories of KB Toys.
Yes. You know, my one big regret in life is that my kids will not get to experience the joy that was KB Toys. Like,
It's limited. It's still out. I think there is. It still out?
no,
I think
so
it's
they
still.
were purchased by Toys R Us, and then Toys R Us went out of business. So, like, I don't know. I think that their Toys R Us is like the big thing they're trying to bring back, which we'll talk more about next week. But I don't think that there are any physical KB Toy locations anymore.
That's a shame.
Yeah. But you know, you walk into a shopping mall and you really have to admire these stores that take such a tiny space. Like these stores are not big by any stretch of the imagination, but you have to really admire people who are able to take that small space and make it look big. And that is what KB Toys did. Like you would walk in and they had just big aisles and their toys everywhere. You know, they had you walk in, you have your like what's hot and what's not, you know, stuff that's on sale. You have the wall against the back wall. You have like the new release toys, all that, and then you have these big aisles going from the middle of the store all the way to the back of the store. And on these aisles, you know, that's where you had your different sections: superheroes, anime, Barbies, Hot Wheels, whatever it might be. And you know, walking into there, like the shelves, because it was so small and everything so packed together, the shelves always looked so full of everything, and it was absolutely glorious. And then, not to mention that not only could you get toys and action figures here, but you could get video games. And you walk up to the counter, they always had those glass cabinets, and in those glass cabinets you can buy, you know, for some reason I'm stuck in the era of Nintendo 64. They had Nintendo 64 games, PlayStation. They had a few Sega because around that time, like Sega and Super Nintendo were slowly like fading out of popularity. But you could go like it didn't matter if they didn't have what you were looking for. They always had something else that you wanted in Toys R Us. And like I think the last bit, not Toys R Us, sorry, KB Toys. I think the last big like thing that I was into that I got from there were like Dragon Ball Z toys. Because I remember, you remember when those action figures started to come out? Like Dragon Ball Z was getting popular in the U.S. market, and they started producing action figures. And Toys R Us, not Toys. I don't know why I'm getting those confused. KB Toys always had really cool Dragon Ball Z action figures. In hindsight, you know, as we say every week, I wish that I could look back, you know, had enough intelligence to like look at that and be like, I want to buy a bunch of these toys and I want to buy 2 copies of them because, man, really wish I had that money right now. But
The only thing for me is I thought always KB Toys for me was like a go to second spot. I mean, first off, if Toys R Us didn't have it, then I would say, oh, okay, let me go to KB Toys.
right.
But every time I went to KB Toys, once you got past the video game section right there in front as you hit the cashier spot and you walk by, they have these like where I went in the malls, these like only 3 aisles, and they'd be very smushed. They'd be packed wall to wall,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, with toys, the different toy sections, but you would be smashed because it really they were so closely put together
Yeah.
that you would have to squeeze your way through, and that's the memories I have of this fact. There's so much inventory put in such a small space that you would always have to squeeze by somebody in order to go ahead and look at what you needed to look at.
That was always my favorite part about it. And maybe it's because I was a kid, you know, and I always like loved being in that store. I didn't get to go to Toys R Us as often as I would have liked because my parents were always like getting things from the mall. So naturally, when we're at the mall, I wanted to go check out KB Toys. And that was kind of my favorite part about being there is because my parents would be like in some dumb store next door, and I could just pop over into KB Toys while they're looking at stuff and just get lost in all these other things. I remember specifically a memory when I was a kid, I collected Transformers, and they had the rack of Transformers right by the door, and I was like, oh, cool. And I didn't know any better about like, oh, hey, you shouldn't steal things. So I picked up this Transformer, took it to the store next door where my mom was, and like, and said, Mom, please, can I get this Transformer? And she freaked out because I walked out of the store with a toy that I didn't pay for. And
Oops.
but they always had something for everybody, and I think that because I had my parents trusted me enough to go into KB Toys while they were shopping elsewhere, that's why that memory really sticks with me, is because KB Toys is something that is I was there a lot, and so it feels like a fundamental part of my childhood. And I still remember getting the newspapers every Sunday and opening up like, hey, what does KB Toys have on sale? They always had like a Target sized, what do you call it, ad paper. So
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's like I would love to see KB Toys come back in some form. I know they had KB Toys Express for a while, but that was before Toys R Us closed down, because Toys R Us ate up KB Toys, and now KB Toys is now seriously tied to whatever happens to Toys R Us. So I don't know what's going to happen, but it was just really nice to have a toy store in the mall, outside of GameStop, where you don't have to pay $30 for an action figure.
Well, if you have any thoughts of KB Toys like we do, please share us your thoughts on the memories that you have, because we'd love to hear it. And actually, if you do, if you like, we'll even relate it here on the show as well. So if you have any thoughts on KB Toys and the memories that you have, please share us your thoughts. Popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, it's been a great episode. Any last thoughts on the way out?
I don't know. Just scour change.org, see if there's any like KB Toys or Toys R Us surveys out there. Put your name on them. Like, we need to get some toy stores back in the world. Like, I love Amazon, but Amazon just is the destroyer of toy stores, and I would love to see another toy store pop up here soon.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's going to be a very busy week coming up ahead. We're getting into the nitty gritty, as they say, in the month of November. A lot of things are coming up as far as announcements, as far as releases. We're just getting started. And I know on the Friday show, Melinda and I will cover as much as we can. And coming back here next week, we'll recap a lot of what's going on, plus get you prepared even more for the week ahead in pop culture. So, my friend, there's a lot of stuff coming up in pop culture, and we're going to take care of it for you right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day of paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great